Miles the Monster is not the forgiving type. You might be able to spin once and get away with it, but not twice. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Dover Motor Speedway gave us a lot to talk about. We have so much to cover in this episode. Restart wrecks, tire strategy, the in-season challenge ends in a tie. There's a new points leader. But we will begin this episode with the new wins leader in the NASCAR Cup Series. Denny Hamlin delivers. With qualifying yesterday rained out, Denny started this race 13th, worked his way forward, earned points in both stages, led 67 laps, was able to hold off Christopher Bell before the 1 hour red flag late in stage 3. Then he fended off the field for several restarts, cars with fresher tires bearing down on him. Chase Briscoe with fresher right side tires was half a car length ahead, but could not clear the 11. Denny Hamlin, riding the outside momentum, holds on to get the win. His 4th win of the season, which breaks a 4-way tie with SVG, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson. This is his 58th career win. He is 11th all time, 2 wins away from that 60 win mark, which would tie him with Kevin Harvick, a mark that I believe is very attainable this season. Let's start here because I just want to get this out of the way. The next-gen car has made it easier than ever for drivers to play defense. And just like in most other sports, defense isn't sexy, it's not always flashy, but you have to be good at defense to win, usually. The best drivers know how to use all the tools to play great defense with the next-gen car. Aerodynamic tools, the rear-view camera that continues to face scrutiny. Denny Hamlin aero-blocked Kyle Larson to win Dover last summer. He aero-blocked Christopher Bell today to hold the lead late in stage 3. Joey Logano, a master at using that rear-view camera and taking someone's line away. You bring all of that to a track like Dover, where early in the run, fresh tires, no rubber put down, track is essentially a high-speed single-lane conveyor belt. Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult to pass up front. That is all true. I like something Kyle Busch proposed earlier this weekend. Drivers can choose either to have a spotter or the rear-view camera, but you can't have both. Honestly, we probably should just find a way to get rid of the rear-view camera. Oh, but this is stock car racing, and our street cars have rear-view cameras. Yeah, so you can see what's behind you when you're in reverse. They exist so you don't run over grandma in the grocery store parking lot. Not to aero block guys on the freeway. So, anyway. Just want to get that out of the way. Aero blocking is not fun to watch. Air is invisible, and unfortunately, this car-track combo allows drivers to aero block aggressively. That's out of the way. I still want to compliment Denny Hamlin because what he did at the end of this race, both holding off Christopher Bell and then holding off Chase Briscoe in the field on several restarts, despite the clean air advantage, what Hamlin did was extremely impressive. Chase Briscoe all but had Denny Hamlin cleared. Denny kept his foot in it, maintained control, and was able to hold on to the race lead. Denny Hamlin, you may not like him. I understand if his personality rubs you the wrong way. I understand if some of his actions on track in the past rubbed you the wrong way. Completely understand that. But one thing that is undeniable, just a straight up fact, Denny Hamlin is a damn good race car driver. One of the best NASCAR has ever seen. That is undeniable. I talked about this on the show recently, but like a few years ago, I would have considered Denny Hamlin a really good, probably Hall of Fame worthy driver. You know, he had something like 35 wins in 2019, multiple Daytona 500s, perennial playoff contender. Yeah, probably a future Hall of Famer. But since 2019, the last 5-6 years, Denny Hamlin has added so much to his legacy, in my opinion. Not only did he dominate the end of the Gen 6 with 6 wins a season, championship 4 appearances, all that good stuff, but then when we transition to the next gen, a spec car, everyone on a more even playing field, he hasn't slowed down all that much. He's still averaging 3 to 4 wins a season, consistently among the league leaders in wins, laps led, top 5s, top 10s, always in the playoffs, always making deep playoff runs. And he's doing all of this in his 40s, while younger contemporaries like Kyle Busch, you could say Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski have struggled to adapt to the next-gen car. Martin Truex Jr.'s numbers took a dive when the next-gen was introduced. Joey Logano's regular season numbers have dipped since the next-gen car. All these guys, great race car drivers, younger than Denny Hamlin, they have struggled to adapt to this car as well as Denny. Denny dominated in the 550 Gen 6 era. He's continuing to dominate in the next gen. That versatility, that adaptability into his 40s is extraordinary. So impressive. Different formats, different schedules, different aero rules, different cars. This year he has a completely different crew chief. People were calling Chris Gale a bust before this season. None of that has slowed Denny Hamlin down. He continues to study, and even well into his 40s, he seems to be getting better year after year after year. Take Dover, great example. Hamlin was fine at Dover the first 15 years of his career, but he never won a race at the Monster Mile, and we usually race here twice a year. In the last 5 years, he's won twice. 2 different crew chiefs, 2 different generations of cars. He said it post-race. He's continuing to study. He studied Truex. He studied Jimmy Johnson. He studies the game and is continuing to improve well into his 40s. 5-6 years ago, yeah, Denny was probably a future Hall of Famer. Very good driver, but what he has done in the next-gen era, while many of his peers, frankly, have fallen off to a degree, deserves more praise than I think it's getting. Don't have to like Denny Hamlin. His personality, not for everyone. I completely understand that. You may not believe he's on the right side of this lawsuit between 2311 and Front Row. There's plenty of reasons to criticize or to not be a fan of Denny Hamlin, but even his biggest haters, if they're being objective, cannot deny that Denny Hamlin is a damn good race car driver. I was so impressed with the final run under green and then the final few restarts to withstand that pressure. He's so damn good. And like I said, he still seems to be getting better at 44 years old. Dangerous stuff. All right. Been wanting to get that Denny Hamlin rant off my chest for a while now, but today he gave me a good reason to finally say it. Moving on, we'll take a look at the top finishers in a moment, but I want to begin with someone who won't be on that list. That's Christopher Bell, Hamlin's teammate. Finished 18th. He's lucky to walk out of here with a top 20 finish, all things considered. He snapped loose in front of the pack not once, but twice, and walked away with minimal damage both times. It's rare that someone faces Miles the Monster like that and lives to tell the tale. First incident came when Bell was side by side with Chase Elliott for the race lead on the outside, tried to get an advantage, car snapped loose. Fortunately, the field missed him somehow, some way. Christopher Bell to the rear, but he was bailed out later in stage 3 with a glancing rain shower that took place during green flag pit stop cycles. Adam Stevens just told Bell, run long, hopefully we catch a weather-related caution, and sure enough, they did. That allowed them to cycle back to the top 5, regain almost all their track position, was in the picture, battling Denny Hamlin late. Another red flag. Late race restart. Bell now on the inside. Similar story, slightly different result. This one took out William Byron, Noah Gragson, both swept up in the carnage. Really tough break for those two. We'll talk about the points in a moment, but William Byron entered this race with a slim regular season points lead. Let's just say he walks out at a deficit now. And Noah Gragson was top 10 in this race 1 year ago, has struggled this season, but was putting together a solid top 15 performance, used some strategy to try and squeak out a top 10 there. He didn't deserve to be swept up in this, but lo and behold, it happened. But back to Christopher Bell. You know, they talk about running out of talent. You gotta have talent to run out of it, and Christopher Bell is obviously a talented race car driver, but today was not a banner day. I believe there were only 4 cautions for incident today, and 2 of them were due to Christopher Bell wiping out in front of the pack. Christopher started the year off so strong. 3 wins in the first 4 races, led 114 laps in that span, but in the 16 races that followed, Bell led only 40 laps. 0 wins. It did win the All-Star race, I guess, but inconsistent finishes, dropped from 2nd to 6th in the points. And then today happened. And for a while, it looked like Christopher Bell was back in the saddle. Led over 50 laps in this race. He won a stage, only his 2nd stage win of the season, mind y'all. But he shot himself in the foot, not once, but twice. Gotta clean that up before the playoffs, because I feel Christopher Bell is a very real championship contender, certainly a championship 4 contender. He's made it 2 of the last 3 years, lost last year's on a technicality. But as easily as Bell could get to Phoenix once again this year, I could see him flaming out in the first or maybe the second round. And that would be a huge disappointment considering their strong start to the season. So got to clean up these details. Bell got to be sharp. Teams got to be sharp. Today, the stars aligned. The universe bailed him out of his first mistake, but then he made a second one. Can't do that come playoff time. Just can't. Let's take a look at the top finishers. Those late race restarts and differing tire strategy shuffled this leaderboard quite a bit towards the end. For example, Chase Briscoe probably had the 5th or 6th best car today, but he comes home second after crew chief James Small opted to pit for fresh right side tires. He restarted 9th late, dodged those couple of spins, those couple of wrecks, gained some extra track position, had a shot at the win in the second overtime, comes up just short. Still a good result. This team seems to have found their groove this summer. Good news ahead of the playoffs. Finishing third, Alex Bowman. Great day for Alex Bowman. You know he wanted more. He has won this race in the past, and the way he drove from 15th into the top 5 early, this team looked to have winning speed, but they never quite got over the hump. They were never quite able to get that clean air, to get that track position. To come home third and to add points to his playoff cushion, still a very successful day. He earned the 4th most stage points today despite starting the race in 15th. So strong showing from Alex Bowman, but you know they wanted just a little bit more. Kyle Larson gets back on track, you might say. Like I said this week, the recent results for Larson have been bad, but Sonoma was really the only bad performance. Like, he has a few other top 10s recently, and then he's been wrecked out by other people's mistakes a couple of times. Sonoma was bad, no doubt, bounced back in a big way, ran top 5 all day, finished 4th. Ty Gibbs stays hot. Last 6 weeks or so, they've been top 10, top 15 every single week, regardless of track type. Great result today. You can see the top 6 finishers all came out of the JGR or Hendrick Motorsports camp. For much of this race, they locked down the top 8 running positions. Tremendous performance from obviously 2 of the best teams in the business, 2 of the teams with the most resources. They handled business for much of the day. Finishing 6th, Chase Elliott. I know Chase Elliott fans feel like this is one that got away. Elliott was in position to do what Denny Hamlin ultimately did, and Denny Hamlin won the race. There was a caution for a brief rain shower at the end of green flag pit stops with about 63 laps to go. Chase Elliott was in position to cycle to the race lead if he stayed out. You know, Christopher Bell, Austin Dillon, who hadn't pit yet, they were going to pit. Chase Elliott stays out. He would have assumed the lead. Denny Hamlin would have been behind him. Instead, Chase Elliott and Alan Gustafson decided to come to pit road, which at the time didn't seem like a horrible idea because everyone besides Denny Hamlin came with them. Hamlin, for a moment there, seemed to be on an island, but Hamlin's tires were only slightly older, and obviously he had a great car, top 3 most of the day. Good driver, again, knows how to aero block, use the tools that the next-gen car provides him, so he held his track position. I'm sure Chase Elliott fans can't help but feel like that could have been their guy. If Gustafson, Elliott decide not to pit with 60 to go, whatever it was, Chase Elliott would have had that clean air. Chase Elliott would have had to withstand those late race restarts, that rally from Christopher Bell. Denny would have probably been in the picture as well. 6th place finish is good. There is a silver lining. Not only did Elliott finish 6th, he won a stage. That's a playoff point. He also passed William Byron in the regular season point standings. So Chase Elliott now is the regular season points leader. That comes with a 15 playoff point bonus at the end of the regular season. So it's not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom, but you lead the most laps. You had the track position potentially, and you let it get away. Tried a strategy that ultimately did not work out. I'm sure Chase Elliott fans feel like this one got away. 6th place for Elliott. Bubba Wallace 7th. We'll look at the bubble in a moment. Big day for Bubba to get some points. Also got some stage points as well. And then you finally get some Fords. You know, Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, RFK snuck into the top 10 late thanks to that tire strategy. They did not have top 10 speed today. Frankly, they missed it. Ryan Blaney there in 8th was the fast Ford most of the day, but gosh, this was a race where Hendrick and Gibbs obviously separated themselves from Penske. You know, those are usually the big 3. That's the Ford, Chevy, Toyota powerhouse teams. Today it was just about Chevy and Toyota. Ford, not really in the picture. Something to note heading into the rest of the regular season, but especially once the playoffs come around. I'll mention Kyle Busch real quick because he was my sleeper pick coming into the weekend. Last year he won the pole, ran top 5 in this race. And early on today, I felt like a genius. Kyle Busch drove his way through the top 10 up into the top 5, but then they just fell behind and kept falling further and further out of the top 10, out of the top 15. They just lost the handle. They put tires on at the end, rallied to finish 11th, which isn't bad. It's not good enough where they are in points, probably need to win or keep getting top fives. But it was interesting to see how the day devolved, frankly. Started off with a lot of promise, a lot of potential, and they just didn't keep up with track changes seemingly as well as the best teams did. So something to note, 11th for Kyle Busch. There are your top finishers today. Quick look at the playoff bubble. It's not quite as tight as it's been in recent weeks. Again, Bowman with a strong performance, a lot of points stacked up. Chris Buescher didn't run great during the race, but came home with a top 10 finish, salvaged what he could. Bubba Wallace, top 10 as well, while Ryan Preece struggled all day. No stage points. I think he finished 19th. Kyle Busch kind of just maintained. Ty Gibbs gained some points, but he's still so far back, likely going to need a win. 5 races to go in the regular season. Dover, I didn't consider a wild card, other than I thought maybe Alex Bowman could win this race, considering his history here, but you look at what races are coming up. Indianapolis can sometimes be a bit surprising, but after that, you got Watkins Glen. If something happens to SVG, if he falls out for whatever reason, like he did today with an early flat tire, then that opens up that race to be kind of a wild card. A McDowell or a Buescher, or someone could swoop in and get the win like in years past. Richmond proved to be a wild card last year, and then of course there is Daytona looming at the end of August. But there's a look at the playoff bubble. Just looking at my notes, one more thing I forgot to mention, again with Chase Elliott. I know today was disappointing, not winning the race, not even getting a top 5, but you did get the points lead, and I wanted to reiterate that this team has turned a corner. 6 weeks ago, we were all lamenting the performance. Yes, they're finishing top 20 every week, but a lot of times they're the 9th fastest car on track. That's not up to Chase Elliott and Hendrick Motorsport's usually high standards. But the last few weeks, Chase Elliott, Alan Gustafson, say what you will about the call to pit today, they figured something out. 4 top 5s in the last 6 races. Today they finished 6th, almost a top 5 finish. They earned top 5 points. They won at Atlanta. They've begun leading more laps once again, and they've jumped in that span from 5th to 1st in the regular season points. I'm just saying, for much of the year, Chase Elliott was in that 6th to 10th place range. Now he's in that 1st to 5th place range. They've officially cracked the top 5 in speed most weeks. Something to watch moving forward. I just wanted to say that. I wanted to end on a high note with Chase Elliott because he did have a really good day. Let's put this race on the Groovy Gauge. The Groovy Gauge, as always, is powered by electric e-bikes. Head to electricebikes.com to find a ride that suits you this summer. I could go a lot of different ways with this one. The end was exciting. Hamlin, Bell side by side for the lead. Bell spins out, drama. Then Briscoe takes a swing, can't connect. But we had to sit through an hour-long red flag to get to that point. And before the red flag, yeah, it was somewhat frustrating watching Christopher Bell battle dirty air behind Denny Hamlin. Again, respect to Denny Hamlin. He's a really good driver. Not everyone can aero block as well as Denny does, but this car does make playing defense easier than it used to be. So Christopher Bell was at a huge disadvantage there, and it was frustrating. It was absolutely frustrating to watch, especially on fresher tires, how difficult it was to pass. The next gen and concrete just don't perfectly match. Even today, brand new tire that Goodyear's never run. They're only going to run this tire at Dover. There was no on-track testing before this week, and a lot of unknowns, a lot of potential variables, and that resulted, I think, in a great Stage 1. Stage 1 today was wild. You had good cars starting towards the back because of the metric, because qualifying was rained out. You had bad cars starting up front. It was split up into a short and then a very long run that allowed for comers and goers, tires to fade. Allmendinger blew a tire. Eric Jones blew a tire. The opening stage was awesome, but we never saw that kind of maneuverability again. Fresh tires, track was one lane all around the bottom, and this car does not do well high speed, one groove tracks. So, man, as far as a score, was this a good race? I mean, I feel like I've been given a lot of 60 to 70s lately because they're fine. They've all been fine races, but not the most remarkable. Credit to NASCAR and to TNT for allowing them to dry and then restart this race, put that work in so that the fans could see an authentic finish. But I don't know, there's a lot of grinding to get to that point. I'm going to go 60. I'll just say 60%. It was an okay race, not amazing. I guess my expectations for Dover are kind of in here anyways. 60 for me. Maybe you agree. Maybe you thought it was a really good race. Maybe you fell asleep. Maybe you missed the restarts at the end during the red flag. I don't know. But I go 60. This is a tough one to rank for me. I don't feel passionately about my score one way or another. Before I go, gotta mention the in-season challenge. I actually got my picks right this week. I had Ty Dillon over John Hunter Nemechek. Didn't expect it to go the way it did, but I was right. Ty Dillon, the 32 seed, has made it to the championship round, and I had Ty Gibbs, who's been on a hot streak lately, beating Tyler Reddick. Sure enough, he did. Top 10 once again for Ty Gibbs. So we have a Ty versus Ty championship. Dillon versus Gibbs, Indianapolis, Brickyard 400, $1 million on the line. Look, it's gimmicky. We all agree, especially starting the bracket at Atlanta, where of course a 20-car pileup is possible and did happen and blew up a lot of matchups right off the bat. This whole thing is a bit silly. That's undeniable, but it's also kind of fun. And it doesn't really impact the broader season. It's just for these guys to potentially cash in a bonus $1 million. And I will say, with how things broke this year, it's given us an opportunity to spotlight drivers that otherwise aren't in the spotlight. Ty Dillon's not usually in the spotlight. John Hunter Nemechek, not typically in the spotlight. Ty Gibbs, for much of this season, not in the spotlight. But now, we're talking about him. It's good for those teams, good for those sponsors, good for those drivers. Like Ty Dillon gets to show some personality on track, bumping guys out of the way, and off track with some all-time classic interviews. So it's harmless fun at this point. But going into next year, I think I would like to see NASCAR take it a little more seriously. And when I say that, I essentially mean don't start the tournament at a super speedway next year. Can we start it at a more conventional racetrack so that at least some of the fan favorites make it through the opening round? Didn't get that this year, and as a result, I feel like a lot of fans kind of just tuned it out, frankly. It's fun to mention that Ty Dillon is making this incredible run, but like the Ty Dillon, John Hunter Nemechek matchup wasn't exactly a heavyweight bout this week. That sounds cruel, but I have to be honest. Anyway, going into Indy, who you got? Dillon or Gibbs? I'll make my prediction later this week. But that is going to do it for today's show. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more NASCAR race reviews, driver interviews, news, rumors, reactions, and more every single week. And a big thank you to my supporters for continuing to keep this show growing. I will see you all this week. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon.